Every day, people suffer shocking human rights abuses, despite the stated respect there is for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This important document was born out of the human rights abuses, the human rights crimes of the Second World War. It gave great hope to those who suffered in that war against fascism and hope for the generations that followed. The Declaration sets out standards for the world as it should be. But tragically, more than 70 years after it was written, so many people are still suffering shocking human rights abuses. Rapes, murders, disappearances, massacres, ethnic cleansing. One of the major problems we confront in working to end these abuses is that powerful people do not speak up, and worse, they're often complicit in these crimes continuing because of their silence. The situation in Kashmir and Palestine illustrate this failure. In my talk today, I will concentrate on these two countries. First off, I would like to thank the organisers of this event for inviting me to speak, and I congratulate them on their initiative in organising this conference. Kashmiris and Palestinians are suffering human rights abuses on a monumental scale, and abuses have been occurring for over 7 decades. While the rulers of Palestine and Kashmir present themselves to the world as leaders of vibrant democracies, the reality is that they are colonial occupiers. Government and army leaders in India and Israel regularly violate the laws of war, the United Nations Charter, and resolutions of the UN General Assembly. These officials are some of the worst human rights abusers. It is relevant to note here that UN General Assembly Resolution 45/130 recognises the right of people living under occupation to engage in armed struggle. I give emphasis to this point because both Israel and India refuse to recognise this right. Their belligerent response to those who resist the rule of Zionists over Palestine and Hindu extremists over Kashmir include summary executions, sexual violence, enforced disappearances, lengthy jail sentences and torture. These crimes have been extensively documented by various human rights groups. Israel and India disseminate false allegations that assert those who resist their military, security and police forces are terrorists. This false narrative is often used by occupying powers like India and Israel to justify their crimes. Once an individual or group is labelled with a terrorist descriptor, the occupying forces use that assertion to justify their crimes of killings, torture, abuse of women, and much more. I hope that this conference recognises these causes of human rights abuses and how many Western nations are complicit in the crimes the Indian and Israeli state are committing because they failed to speak up in opposition to these human rights abuses. There are many reasons Western powers should speak up in defence of human rights in both the Middle East and the subcontinent. The allegation of terrorist activities, which is spurious in most cases, is used by the ruling powers of Israel and India to justify a massive arms build-up in these regions and further human rights abuses. Over the past decade, India has spent more than $10 billion US dollars buying Israel armaments. Indian police forces are trained in Israel for anti-terror operations. This training is based on what Israel conducts against Palestinians. Many of the weapons and security measures are promoted to India and the world as field tested, which means they've been tested and used on Palestinians. To be serious about holding the perpetrators of human rights abuses to account, we need to address the failure of world leaders who refuse to expose human rights abuses despite the evidence being irrefutable and readily available. The perpetrators of human rights abuses and those who do not speak out to expose these crimes should note that while the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is not legally binding, this document is based on human rights standards enshrined in other international instruments that are legally binding, such as the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Palestine and Kashmir will win their rights. Free Palestine, free Kashmir. Thank you.